travel back in time with me. Back before your first kiss, even before your first words. The time you, as a member of the Jewish people, first stepped into a house of God. So here's the scene. We're in the desert with Moshe, and the Mishkan has finally been fashioned and consecrated. And remember, this is your first impression. So you've never even heard the word Mishkan before. The book of Leviticus hasn't been written yet. You have nothing to expect. So Moshe calls us all to stand before the temple, and for the first time, we see an altar of fire, hungry for flesh. And we see a table laid out meticulously with the long-edged knives for slaughter, copper bowls for collecting the lifeblood, the vicious tools for tearing skin and removing organs. Moshe brings out oil and flour, a set of beautiful oxen, and with them, for the first time, we're introduced to a chosen tribe, to Aaron and his sons. So Moshe preps Aaron's body, washing him clean, dressing him beautiful. And it's then that we see the golden words etched on Aaron's head. Kodesh Ladonai. This one is consecrated for the Lord. And as we look from Aaron to the knives, from the altar to his sons, we are left to wonder, shall Moshe now sacrifice his brother? Now, if you finish Exodus 29, you find out that only the oxen are sacrificed. You know, in our tradition, when a man with a knife has a choice between an animal and a man, he usually chooses the animal. But not so fast, because Moshe is told, l'hakriv Aaron and his sons, to bring them forward, but also the same word for sacrifice. And we see Moshe take the blood of the oxen and smear it all over Aaron and his children, and their previously white garments. Sprinkle it upon Aaron and upon his garments, upon his right thumb, his right ear, his right toe. Because perhaps Aaron himself isn't sacrificed, but he almost looks it. Because being singled out to serve God, being chosen for a life of divine mission, is no walk in the park. It means walking that fine line between offering and offered, between high priest and first victim. And as you, on your first visit to a house of God, leave, those words from Sinai still echo through your mind. Be for me a kingdom of priests and an appointed nation. And we suddenly realize, hey, we too have been chosen. So, a Jewish temple can be many things. But first and foremost, I believe it's a place to be a little disturbed. I believe that God dwells in our holy places. But if God is the ultimate mystery, the ultimate incomprehensible, and she is also the ultimate surprise. God didn't rest in her tabernacles to repeat the familiar. She wants us to be shocked. Shocked by our responsibility. Arriving in the promised land means 40 years of wander. That God's insistent message, love the stranger, damn it, will be announced to the world on the backs of our slavery in Egypt. Shocked that when nations study our history, new words like genocide will need to be created. And today, shocked to find out that the world's most dangerous experiment in shaping dual hate into peace and competition to coexistence is going to take place in our backyard. But also shocked, I'll tell you, by God's love. I've told you about our first impression of the Holy Temple, and now I'm going to tell you about the last. The Talmud records that every festival, Jews would assemble in the temple courtyard, and there the priests would open the doors to the Holy of Holies, undress the veils covering its most private holy parts of the temple. And there, according to the Talmud, the Jews would peer in, and they would see something very reminiscent to this. Keruvim shahayu me'urim zeh b'zeh. The cherubs on the ark would be me'urim, intertangled, interpenetrated with each other. And the priests would shout out, "See, Israel, how loved you are to God. Ru'u chibatchem lifnei makom." It is like the love of male and female. So says the Talmud. And the rabbis knew that this sight in the Holy of Holies would be a shock. They write how on the last day the temple stood, on the day the idolaters finally violated their privacy, the intertangled cherubim were taken out to the streets and the scandal was publicized. Look, the non-Jew said, the pagan said, this is what the holy children of Israel occupy themselves with. This. It's the same shock that thousands of Jews had thought before. Is this what's in my temple? Is this really the love of man and God? It is. Even if it's uncomfortable to teach our kids. Even if it's the last thing we expect to see in the Holy of Holies. Because on the eve of our long exile, when God had one last chance to speak to us, God shocked us in her temple. She gave us a love that we would never forget.